Look at these publications that you see on the screen, abstracts presented in international meetings worldwide. Maybe you want to do residency in a competitive program. Maybe you want to go to another country, apply for a PhD. Can you imagine how much easier it will be to get there with high impact publications such as these? Believe me, I've been frustrated and disappointed in trying to find research mentors in my career. And I want to show you a different method by which you can get mentors. There's a specific research method that you can apply in your career that will give you results, that you can do it independently. You can develop an idea, work on it, and even draft the paper. This will open doors of mentorship for you in your institution and beyond.
We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things. Not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
It's also more than that. The Meta-Analysis Academy is a community of doctors and medical students who have this mindset that they not only want to get publications done, of course that will happen, but they also have this mindset of excellence, of wanting more. So it's these two things. It's the ability to get research done, and it's an environment that will provide the excellence that you look for in your career. Hello everyone, and welcome to day 2 of the publication roadmap. I'm really excited to share with you guys today the 10-step process of the journey for you to achieve the publications with autonomy. I hope you guys enjoyed day 1 yesterday when we talked a lot about career opportunities that come from having impactful research under your CV. We also talked about breaking barriers of research, such as having no mentors, such as not having institutional support. And today we're going to go one step further on the actual practical steps of doing systematic reviews and meta-analysis so you can publish impactful papers with autonomy. I'm really glad that you're here today. It's important that you invite your friends to participate here with you. You can hit that like button here on the YouTube channel and share it with them as well. So if you guys just give me 1 second, I need to start something else here. Just give me 1 second. So before we get started, I want to make sure that everyone has very clear what their reasons why is. Why is it? What is your reason for doing this? This has to be crystal clear for everyone here. So remember to write down, whether it's in a piece of paper or in a digital format, write down your reasons why, because as we discussed extensively yesterday, it all starts with the why. The why is the most important thing. Today we're going to learn the map, we're going to learn the roadmap for doing this, but it all starts with why. So make sure you have that very well defined before we get started. So the roadmap for doing research with autonomy is the map of doing systematic reviews and meta-analysis. We talked about yesterday on how you can do, on the reasons why meta-analysis are so powerful. You get the impact, you get the autonomy, you do it quickly. So all these three things, these three components are critical for you to understand that you need to learn how to do systematic review and meta-analysis to advance your career. Impact, speed, and you also get to do it with autonomy. Let's just quickly review what we discussed yesterday. Why is it that you get the autonomy? Well, you get the autonomy because the data is from the literature. It is not from your hospital. So the data is from the international literature from Europe, from Asia, from North America, from South America, but it is not from your hospital. So you get autonomy when you do that. The second major advantage of meta-analysis is the speed Because you don't depend on your local institution, you don't have to collect data from charts, you don't have to recruit patients, you don't have to call patients and get their information. Because you don't depend on an ethics committee, you end up actually having the ability, the skill of doing it fast. That's the other major advantage. And then finally, the other one is just that we talked about autonomy, we talked about speed and impact. You publish at the top of the pyramid of evidence, the best journals, the best conferences in the world, and this is what makes a meta-analysis so powerful. The combination of autonomy, impact, and speed. And today we're going to learn the practical steps of actually doing a systematic review and meta-analysis. We're going to learn that roadmap by which you can do this yourself. Okay? So I want to remind everyone of the definition of a meta-analysis and a systematic review. Let's start with the definition, and then we'll go over the steps. What we discussed today is a little bit more technically demanding than yesterday, so it is very important that you focus entirely on this discussion here. Okay, so make sure you turn off your cell phones, make sure that you're focused, because some of the concepts that we discuss will be more technical. Let's talk about the definition first. A meta-analysis is the quantitative synthesis, the math, the statistics, the quantitative arrangement or pooled analysis of studies that are similar to each other. And we're going to go over the 10-step process by which you can actually do one yourself. What are the advantages of a meta-analysis from a literature perspective? Why is it so powerful in the literature? Well, there are several reasons for this. One is that it generates a measure of the overall pooled effects of studies. So let me give you an example. You may have a certain topic in the literature which is very contentious. One study showed one thing, another showed the opposite. So, for example, the use of steroids for treatments of patients with sepsis. There's a lot of controversy historically on that topic. Do we give corticosteroids for patients who are in the ICU, in the intensive care unit with sepsis? So that's a very contentious topic. And what happens is we end up not having a clear answer based on the controversy of multiple studies. But when you do a meta-analysis, you get to look at that in aggregate. You look at all the data together and look at the overall pooled effect of studies. The consequence of that is that you have more patients in the meta-analysis than in the individual studies. And that means that you increase the power, okay? You increase the power of the overall analysis because you have more patients now. So the consequence of that to you personally is that it really helps to advance your own career because you significantly contribute to the literature, and then that builds your own career and it gives you the autonomy that we talked about. So you have a method that has multiple advantages both for the literature and for research and for yourself, for your research CV. Publications with impact and autonomy, as we've discussed yesterday. So I want to give you an example of this. This is an important figure for you to understand. This is data, historical data, on the use of thrombolytic therapy for treatment of acute myocardial infarction. So if we go back many decades when this started to be studied in the 60s and 70s, at that point, doctors and the medical community did not know that thrombolytic therapy saved lives. They were studying it initially, but then they started doing studies. And these lines here and these bars, they represent the aggregate analysis, the pooled analysis of all prior studies until that point. So in the 60s, there were only a few patients that had been studied in clinical trials. But in aggregate, when you add all the different trials, that number started to rise quickly. But what you can see here is that these trials went on for 30 years, from the 1960s to 1990s. Okay, so at least 20 years of clinical trials in this space. But did we really need all those clinical trials? Had we done meta-analysis, the aggregate analysis of all studies, all patients that had been previously studied, we would probably have found out the overwhelming benefit of thrombolytic therapy saving lives in myocardial infarction when we only had an aggregate sample of 2,500 patients in the 70s. But look how far this went, up to 1990, with thousands and thousands more of patients studied in clinical trials. And this gives you a sense, this shows you the importance of doing meta-analysis, of looking at the data, not just at one individual study, but at looking at the aggregate, looking at all the data together that has been published before on a given topic. This is what a meta-analysis does. It looks not only at the data of one study, but at the data from all studies in that topic. That's why it's so powerful. That's why it can help you so much in your very own career. So let's look at then, what about the difference of a meta-analysis and a systematic review? It's quite simple. A systematic review is the process to find the studies that are similar to each other. So with a systematic review, we will find the studies that are similar to each other, and then we'll do a meta-analysis that adds the studies together. So if you use the definition from the Cochrane collaboration, which is the institution that sets the rules on systematic reviews, summarized version of their definition, a systematic review is the method for identifying, selecting, and reporting studies that meet pre-established criteria. So with a systematic review, we're going to go into the literature and find the right studies. With a meta-analysis, we're going to pool these studies. We're going to analyze the studies in aggregate. So those are two processes that are really related. A systematic review sets criteria for inclusion, finds the studies, and then a meta-analysis will do the pooled analysis, the statistics of those studies together, generate new data, and they are so powerful together. That's why when I say a meta-analysis, we're doing a systematic review and a meta-analysis. Is that clear to everyone? Do you guys understand how these two are related? Different processes, but how they're intrinsically related. A systematic review finds the data, a meta-analysis does the statistics. Everyone clear on that? All right, so let's go ahead now and look at the advantages of a systematic review, or how it's done. A systematic review defines clear inclusion and exclusion criteria. And I'll give you guys very practical examples in today's talk. A systematic review defines very clear inclusion and exclusion criteria. It also will include all studies that meet those inclusion criteria. Why is that? Because we want to avoid bias. Let me go back to that example on the steroids and sepsis. If I'm an intensive care unit doctor and I'm doing a systematic review and meta-analysis on steroids for treatment of sepsis, I can't use my personal opinions in the matter. Let's say that I am in favor. Personally, I think it works. I can't do a systematic review and selectively include the studies that I like, that show what I think, and exclude the ones that I don't like. You can't do that. When you do a systematic review, you define the criteria for inclusion beforehand, and then you include all the studies that meet that eligibility criteria. That's the beauty of a systematic review and meta-analysis, is that you're able to include, you have to include all studies that meet that eligibility criteria. And this lowers the risk of bias. It avoids personal preference from the authors in the review and process. Okay? All right. So now that we have this clear, we're going to go over the 10 steps on how you do a systematic review and meta-analysis. But understand that there's a slight difference between them, but we do them together. we do the systematic review and the statistics and the meta-analysis and the quantitative analysis of studies that are similar to each other, which is a meta-analysis. So let's get right into it. Look at this example. This is a meta-analysis by one of our students from the Meta-Analysis Academy. This meta-analysis has 6,200 patients. But they are not from one hospital alone. They're from all over the world. They're from 4 different studies. There are 4 different studies here done in different times, 2016, 2023, 2017, and 2019. And each one of them contributed with a few thousand patients. This one has 750 patients. This one has 1,100 patients, 1,600 patients, 2,600 patients. But in aggregate, when we look at all of them together, we have more than 6,000 patients. That's why meta-analysis is so powerful, because you get to look at the data in aggregate. That's why it's at the top of the pyramid of evidence. So now that you understand these concepts and you understand the reasons why meta-analysis are so powerful, I want to ask you if you're ready to learn the 10 steps of actually doing a systematic review and meta-analysis. Yes? You guys are ready for the actual roadmap? Let me know in the chat. All right. So let's do it. Let's learn the 10-step process by which we can do this as well. Okay, so these are the 10 steps. We're going to go over each one of them sequentially. First, developing ideas, then working the research question, then testing viability, looking at the search strategy. All these steps that we're gonna go over sequentially, each one of them. I want you all to know that these 10 steps of doing a meta-analysis are also the way that the classes in the Meta-Analysis Academy are structured. In our program, you have exactly this. You have modules that mirror each step. Okay, so that's why I present it to you in this way. In the Meta-Analysis Academy, you have 10 modules, and each module explains one of these concepts. But let's go ahead and start with concept number 1, developing ideas. This is a barrier for many of you, especially the more junior you are, the more challenging it is to develop your own ideas. And I'm going to show you that there are methods that you can develop that you even without significant clinical knowledge, you'll be able to develop your own solid, robust, really strong ideas. And I know this from experience because we've had dozens and hundreds of students that are early on in their career, pre-med, first-year med students, second-year med students, third-year med students, people early on in their career who've developed ideas and published in the best journals in the world. And in the Meta-Analysis Academy, I teach 9 different methods, 9 methods for you to develop your own ideas, 9 methods. But in the interest of time, I'm going to go over 2 of those methods here. Of course, there's a lot more to discuss about the topics of generating ideas, but let's go ahead and do this together. So I showed you the example of Caroline yesterday, who came here for an observership at one of the Harvard hospitals. And this idea, this publication here of the use of polyphenol in women with polycystic ovarian syndrome was her own idea as a first-year medical student. As a first-year medical student, she had this idea. And she applied one of the methods that I'm going to teach you right now. She applied the methods of looking at recent studies. I'm going to show you 2 methods right now that you can actually go and apply right away. You can actually go and apply these right away in your own projects to develop your great ideas. So let's find out what these are. The first one is a very straightforward method, which is clinical questions at the bedside, or in the operating room, or in the emergency room, or in the intensive care unit. Having clinical questions at the bedside is a great idea for you to develop ideas for systematic reviews and meta-analysis. The topics that our students published, these meta-analysis, they're not only relevant in their own mind. They're not only relevant in the lives of the authors. They are relevant problems for medical field in general, for gynecology, for orthopedics, for cardiology. So these questions are being asked all over the world in clinical care, at the bedside, in the hospital. And that's exactly what I'm going to teach you all here, that you can actually do impactful research with ideas that come from the bedside. So this guy, for example, I've shown you, Tomas, he matched into internal medicine residency in Colorado. And this publication here on the use of oral anticoagulation versus aspirin in patients with multiple myeloma, this is a question that he had at the bedside when he was caring for a patient. So you can actually develop great ideas just from your clinical questions in the hospital. Write them down. If there's something you don't know, go and study about it. You may find out that there is an answer established for that question. You just didn't know it yet. You're learning. But you may also find out that it's not only you who doesn't know. You may find out that other people don't know it either. So you can potentially do a systematic review and meta-analysis on that topic. Okay? Now, the second method is going to be more broadly applicable even to those without clinical experience, even the ones without rotations in the hospital yet. Like Caroline that I showed you, she used this method here to develop her idea for publishing that great paper in the European Gynecology and Obstetrics paper. So what method is this of recent publications? You have to understand this. A meta-analysis is the quantitative synthesis of studies that are similar to each other. So if we're looking at the literature, then we can find ideas that are controversial. It's quite straightforward. You're looking for controversial topics where you can actually do a meta-analysis yourself. So you need to find those studies on topics that are controversial. And one great way of doing this is by looking at recent publications. So here are some examples of this. This came out in the New England Journal of Medicine in July of 2022. Hundreds, thousands, dozens of thousands of doctors saw this all over the world. It became available in the highest ranking journal in the medical field. But it was one of our students, her name is Yasmin, that published on this same topic right in sequence. So she saw this publication and she worked hard on a meta-analysis on the same topic. How did she have this idea? By the way that I'm explaining to you. You see a recent publication in a topic where there's controversy on that topic, and you do a meta-analysis on the same topic, looking not only at the data for that study, but at all studies that have previously examined that question. So it's a very powerful method for you guys to develop your own ideas. I'm going to show you more examples because you really need to understand this as a tool. Look at this publication by a second-year medical student on surgical oncology, comparing laparoscopic versus open surgery for treatment of gastric cancer. This is a second-year medical student. He's not even in the hospital yet. He doesn't have clinical experience yet. How is it possible that this guy has an idea at this level? Well, this is why. He had the idea based on this publication in JAMA Surgery. You see a clinical trial that's published in a really great journal comparing outcomes of laparoscopic versus gastrectomy for advanced gastric cancer. So you see a publication that you like on a controversial topic, and you go ahead and you think about doing a meta-analysis on the same topic, looking at data in aggregate, not just at that one study that you see on the screen. You look at the data in aggregate. Is this clear to everyone? You guys understand this? Yes? All good? Let me just show you one more example so you get inspired by this. Look at this publication in ophthalmology. This is a great publication on the use of photobiomodulation in age-related macular degeneration. I have no idea what that is, but it sounds like an important topic because they published this in this great journal in ophthalmology. Where did that idea come from? From this publication in Retina. This is a really great journal in ophthalmology, and it was a randomized control trial looking at the same question, photobiomodulation in age-related macular degeneration. So these guys did a publication, a meta-analysis on that same topic. Look, over here, there's 100 subjects. Over here, 247. Why does the meta-analysis have more people? Well, the meta-analysis has more people in it because it's the aggregate analysis, not just of one study, but of 3 studies. So you get to look at you get a more powerful analysis because you include data from multiple studies. All right? So this is really important. Look at prior studies and develop your own ideas for meta-analysis. How can you stay in tune with the literature? You can subscribe to the newsletter. It's free. It doesn't cost you anything. You can subscribe to the newsletter of the journals in your area of interest. So let's say, for example, that you like pediatrics. If you like pediatrics, you're going to go to the page of the most important pediatric journals, and you're going to sign up in their free newsletter. So when you do that, they will send you emails. They will send you emails periodically, every week or every 2 weeks, telling you the most recent publications in that journal. And you're just going to look at the titles and abstracts, and you're going to see if any topic is of interest to you to potentially doing a systematic review and meta-analysis. But don't do that just for one journal. Do it for 3, 4, or 5 journals. I don't know the journals well in pediatrics, but you could do JAMA Pediatrics, European Journal of Pediatrics. You can go at these more prestigious journals in pediatrics and sign up for their free newsletter. Everyone good with that? When you leave here today, make sure you go and subscribe to the newsletter of the journals of your choice. All right? All good? Perfect. So I'll actually have one more method for you to develop ideas. I have 3 methods for you to develop ideas here. The third one is for you to go to guidelines. How does this work? Take a look at this guideline. This is a guideline from the American Heart Association Management of Heart Failure. If you go to this guideline, there's a controversial topic there that the guideline authors didn't know really well how to handle. Let's read this recommendation. It says the following: in patients with heart failure who have hyperkalemia because they get medications to treat the heart failure that causes high potassium. So in these patients with high potassium treated with medications, should we give potassium binders like these to lower the potassium and allow them to stay on the heart failure medications? So the authors didn't know. Look what they said. They said the use of this strategy is of uncertain efficacy. So what does that mean? What does uncertain mean? It means controversy. If there is controversy in the literature, it's the right soil, it's the right land for you to plant a meta-analysis. Wherever there is controversy, there's an opportunity for a potential systematic review and meta-analysis. So the idea here is that you can go to guidelines like this and look at the uncertainty of some recommendations so that you can build on topics that are controversial in the literature. Is that clear to everyone? So Pedro, one of our students, he was a medical student at the time. Now he's a doctor and he's a research fellow in Minneapolis. He published this meta-analysis, Safety and Efficacy of New Potassium Binders on Management of Hyperkalemia. Okay, sounds good? So, yesterday we talked a lot about careers. So I want to take the opportunity that I mentioned Pedro here to talk about how this is impactful in your career once again. He was a medical student at the time he joined the Meta-Analysis Academy without much in terms of publications. Today, he has about 30 papers. I may be wrong by a few, but it's around 30. And he came to the United States to do a research fellowship at Minneapolis Heart Institute. And he's doing extraordinarily well. He does observational studies, clinical trials. He participates in wonderful types of research these days at one of the best centers in the United States. But the reason why he got that opportunity is because he was an extraordinary candidate. He learned how to do systematic reviews and meta-analysis. He built his CV with strong publications. And with that, he became an extraordinary candidate for a research fellow. Okay? All right. That was topic number 1. You guys ready for step number 2? Ready for step number 2? Let's do it. Hey, did you guys hit that like button and share the live stream with your friends? You can copy the link on the bottom right and you can send it in your groups. You can send it to the folks that you know so that they can join and participate in the publication roadmap as well. Can you guys give me the thumbs up that you shared? Very good. Excellent. So we have here our friend Mr. Bobfan and others who shared it. Okay, very good. All right. Razan asked about the minimal number of studies to be considered in a meta-analysis. We're going to learn about that in topic number 3. Okay, we're going to learn that in just a second in the viability section, Razan. Very good. All right, guys. So let's keep going here and let's talk about building a research question. Okay. When we build a research question, we're going to use this P-code format. So first we had an idea, but now we have to give shape and form and structure and organize that idea into a well-defined question. That well-defined question will follow the P-code format: population, intervention, control, outcomes, and type of studies. Okay? So every time you have an idea, you're going to organize it in the P-code format. Every time you have an idea, you're going to organize it in a P-code format. This is really important. So let's look at an example. Let's say that you're doing a meta-analysis on this topic: patients with decompensated heart failure who you use furosemide, Lasix, loop diuretics with SGLT2 inhibitors versus without SGLT2 inhibitors. And the outcomes are mortality, rehospitalization for heart failure, and you want to include your meta-analysis just randomized controlled trials. So this is an example. It's just an example of how you build the P-code question. You outline the population of your meta-analysis, what is the intervention, what is the control group, what are the outcomes, and the type of studies that you want to include. This is an example of a P-code question. This is step number 2. Step number 2 is building a P-code question that will give you a framework for doing your systematic reviews and meta-analysis. Is that good? Everyone understand that? So why is this so important? Because once we define that P-code question, this will allow us to identify studies that should be included versus not included. Let me give you an example. These 2 studies, do they have the right population? patients with recent hospitalizations, patients with acute decompensated heart failure. Yes. So both of these studies have the right population for my meta-analysis. How do I know that? Because I've clearly defined my population. You can only judge if a study can be included or not in your meta-analysis if you define the criteria beforehand. How do you define the criteria? With the P code question. You have to have a very clear delineation of the population, the intervention, the control group, what are the outcomes you're interested in, and what are the types of studies that you're interested in. Okay? So once you do that, if you do that, you're going to be able to set very clear inclusion and exclusion criteria. And then you can decide whether studies can be included or not. Sounds good? Now, look at this other example here. This is a study that had patients with stable heart failure. These patients in this study had stable heart failure. They did not have decompensated heart failure. So this is a study that I cannot include. I cannot include because it does not meet my eligibility criteria. It does not meet my population criteria under the P code question. I said decompensated heart failure, but these are patients with stable heart failure. So now in step number 2, I build the P code question. I don't have the studies yet. I'm just showing you the implications of the P code question. But step number 2 is just building that P code question, because in the future, we will use that to determine which studies get included and which studies get excluded. Everyone got that? All clear? Very, very important step here, okay? All right, so what I've just described to you guys is the concept that I like to call the concepts of apples and oranges. In the United States, there's this saying that you can't compare apples and oranges. We can't compare things that are too different from each other. So when you define your P code question, what you're essentially saying is the following. Pay attention because this is really important. When you define the P code question, here's what you want to use to define all those elements, the population, intervention, control, and all that. How can I make my inclusion criteria broad so I can have more studies, but they can't be broad, too broad, so that I would include apples and oranges? You can't include studies that are too different from each other. You have to have rules to define what studies are similar enough to be combined in a meta-analysis. Is that clear? So this line here, this white line that differentiates apples and oranges is your P code question. The P code question is the boundary, is the limit of what you can include and what you can't. You can have different apples. You can have a green apple. You can have a yellow, a red apple, a small apple, a big apple. You can have different apples. What I mean by that is that the studies don't have to be identical to each other. The studies don't have to be exactly alike. The studies simply have to be similar enough to each other, but they can't be oranges. They can't be too different from each other. And this is a clear distinction that you have to make in step number 2. Everyone understood that, yeah? Okay. So let me make sure you really got this, because it's such an important step. Look at this publication from Fateme. Fateme is from Dubai, from the UAE. She wants to be a surgeon. She's a medical student now. Actually, I'm not entirely sure about that, but she is a future surgeon. And Fateme published this great paper in the Journal of Pediatric Surgery. This is the P code question of her study: pediatric patients with appendicitis. Pediatric patients with appendicitis. The intervention or exposure actually This is an exposure because it's a prognostic meta-analysis, not a therapeutic meta-analysis. You learn more about that in the Meta-Analysis Academy. But the exposure here is having appendiculate etiology. And the control group is another etiology, non-appendiculate etiology. And the outcomes were success of conservative management and recurrence rates. And observational studies are the type of studies she included. So this is a publication in the Journal of Pediatric Surgery, a really great journal in pediatric surgery. Now, let me ask you this. If this is the PICOT question that Fateme and her team put together, can we include this study? This study is published by the Royal College of Surgeons of England, published in the Royal College of Surgeons Journal, the Annals of the College of Surgeons of England, and the mean age of the patients was 37 years old. Can I include this study in Fatime's meta-analysis? Yes or no? Can I include this study in Fatime's meta-analysis? Look at the PICOT question, look at the population, look at the age. So these are not pediatric patients. So I cannot include this study because these are not pediatric patients. So is this an apple or an orange? Is this an apple? Is it similar enough to the other studies that I'm going to include? Or is it an orange? Is it totally different from the studies that I'm going to include? So this is what we refer to as an orange. It should be excluded. It should be left out. Remember, the studies that we include don't have to be exactly the same, but they have to be similar enough. And how do we know that they're similar enough? Because we look at the PICOT question. That's what we do. All right, so this study cannot be included. All right? All right. So I just wanted to mention to you guys, I asked ChatGPT, what are the best journals in pediatric surgery? The number one answer was Journal of Pediatric Surgery. Can you imagine you as a medical student, wherever you are in the world, whether it's Asia, Middle East, Europe, Africa, the Americas, Australia, wherever you are, and you publish a paper as first author at the top of your field, best journal in pediatric surgery? Can you believe it? Journal of Pediatric Surgery. That's where Fateme and her team published this paper. You guys ready for step number 3? Testing the viability? Let's do it. Okay, so what does testing viability mean? Now, testing viability is a concept that you're not going to find in the literature. It's a concept that I created in the Meta-Analysis Academy to explain a very valuable resource that you should apply at this time. What does it mean to check the viability of a meta-analysis? Well, it means the following. You don't want to work on an idea that's dead from the very beginning. We call that DOA, dead on arrival. So what does that mean? Let me explain to you this very important concept. In the United States, we have a two-party system for politics. You have the Democrats and the Republicans. From time to time, one of them is the majority in the House and the Senate, and the other one is the minority, and then they switch around. Okay? When there is one party in power, like let's say right now, for example, Republicans, the Democrats, if they bring a bill, if they bring a proposal to the House or the Senate that is not aligned with Republican interests, Republicans are the majority, that bill is dead on arrival. And vice versa. When Democrats are in power and Republicans want to like cut taxes or whatever it is that they want to do, and the Democrats are opposed to it, whenever that happens, that bill is dead on arrival. And this is a political term that works very well for us in meta-analysis. when you're doing an idea, when you have the idea using one of the methods that I explained to you, and then you build the peak or question, as soon as that idea came to life, it may already be dead. It may be dead on arrival. Just like a bill that comes to the Senate in the example I gave you may be dead the minute it arrives, because the ruling party, the majority, it will vote against it. Okay? So, why is this such an important concept? Because if your idea is dead on arrival, or like in the political arena, it's a waste of time to keep debating that. It's a waste of time to bring it to the House floor or to the Senate floor, because the ruling power will never, the party will never accept it. Over here, the same thing. If you invest your time and your energy on an idea that's dead on arrival, that's not viable, it's a complete waste of time. And that time is better spent with your family. That time is better spent reading on other topics, sleeping, taking care of your lifestyle. It's not well spent time working on a project that's dead on arrival. Does everyone understand that? You understand the concept? So now I'm going to teach you how to explain, how to find out, if an idea is dead on arrival. Because if it is, you want to be far away from that idea. You want to bury it and go to the next idea. All right? So, what determines if an idea is viable or if it's dead on arrival? First of all, you need at least 3 studies. You need at least 3 studies, and you need an idea that's novel. Now, when I say novel, there's an asterisk there, because I want you to understand that being novel does not mean that it's being done for the first time. So you can do meta-analysis on topics that were previously done, as long as you modify it substantially. I'm going to talk about that in just a second. But the concept here, the 10,000 feet view, is that to define viability, to have a viable study, we need to have at least 3 studies, and the idea has to be novel enough. You can't do a meta-analysis if you have just 1 study on that topic. You can't do a meta-analysis on a topic that was recently published the exact same way that you wanted to do it. If you have either of those 2 situations, your idea is dead on arrival, and you should focus your time, your energy on something else. Your idea is not viable. Is that clear for everyone? All right, so let's go ahead and understand this concept. Now, why is this picture here? Because when you have an idea and you figure out that it's dead on arrival, the initial reaction is to be disappointed. The initial reaction is to have the mood of this little girl, just being disappointed and mad and angry. But I actually like to look at it the total opposite. I like to see it as a great opportunity. Can you imagine the amount of time and energy that people spend on projects that go nowhere? I mean, people do cohort studies where they spend 6 months, 1 year working on a project that never sees the light of day. Sometimes people do randomized control trials for years, and then the funding is pulled. They don't have the money anymore. Things don't work out and never gets published. So wouldn't it be a beautiful thing if we could find out the projects that are not worth our time before spending the time on that project? That's essentially what the concept of viability is. The concept of viability is that you get to decide beforehand if a project is worth your time or not. If it is worth your time, then you will proceed. If it's not, you haven't spent more than 2 days working on that project. So you can determine early on, if your project is viable or if it's dead on arrival. Sounds good? Now, if your idea is not viable because someone has already published it before, you can actually do what I like to teach my students in the Meta-Analysis Academy, which is to do a rescue operation. You can create a rescue operation to rescue the viability of that project. What does that mean? It means if there's a prior meta-analysis on the topic, can you modify the prior meta-analysis substantially to the point where you can do an updated meta-analysis? Because most meta-analyses are not brand new ideas. They are improvements of prior meta-analysis that have been done on that topic, but they have to be significant, substantial improvements. You can't just change a little thing and publish the same thing again. This is a waste of everyone's time, and it just adds garbage to the literature. You have to substantially change a prior meta-analysis to be able to rescue your meta-analysis. So this operation of rescuing viability, it's quite intense. You have to really understand the topic, and we go over that in the Meta-Analysis Academy. But I just want to point out to you here, these are all meta-analysis by our students. Look at this one, published in Critical Care, British Journal of Hematology, International Journal of Stroke, Neonatology, Psychiatry Research. These are all great journals, and these were all meta-analyses that had been previously done. But our students from the Meta-Analysis Academy initially saw an idea that was dead on arrival because there was a prior meta-analysis, but they applied a rescue operation to rescue the viability of that project and bring it back to life by doing a substantial modification of that meta-analysis. There's more. So here's more examples. American Journal of Obstetrics and Gynecology, Anesthesia and Analgesia, Neurosurgery, European Journal of Pediatrics. These are the best journals, or some of the best journals in these fields, and these are all updated meta-analysis. So how can you actually do this rescue operation? How can you do this? Resuscitate your idea? How can you see if the project is really dead on arrival and not worth your time, or if it's a viable project that you just need to insist more? That's what we teach in class 3 of the Meta-Analysis Academy. That is the concept of viability. The most important thing about this is the following. You cannot, my friends, give up when you see an idea that's not apparently viable. You cannot give up at the first glance just because someone published that paper before. You have to invest time in deciding if your idea is truly viable or truly dead on arrival, or if it's actually viable. All right. So, and I've shown you dozens, there are hundreds of publications from our students that are updated meta-analysis because they learned that in class number 3. Let's go to class 4, or topic number 4, search strategy. Why is there a picture of a fisherman here? Well, it turns out that search strategy, which is step number 4, is very analogous to fishing, but not for fish. It's similar in the sense that you have to go and find, not fish, but the studies that fit your eligibility criteria. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go into the literature, into PubMed, into Embase, and we're going to search for the studies that meet our eligibility criteria. And when we cast that net, when we throw that net into the literature, we have to find the perfect balance. That's what step number 4 is about. If you're too broad in your search, if you throw the net too wide, you're going to get too many fish, too many studies that have nothing to do with your idea, and it's just going to be a waste of time and make it potentially impossible. If you throw the net too close, if you're too narrow in your search, you may miss the fish that you want. You may miss the eligibility, the studies that meet your eligibility. So let me give you a very practical example of this. I've shown you this publication before by Tomás. So he wants, what's his speak code question? Patients with multiple myeloma on outpatient therapy. What is the intervention? Direct oral anticoagulants. What is the control group? Aspirin. Okay? Aspirin. Okay? All right? The control group is aspirin. So when Tomás did this, if he were to search just multiple myeloma, he gets 62,000 results on PubMed. Do you think that this strategy of searching the literature is too broad or too narrow? Or is it ideal? Is it too many studies, too few studies, or is it ideal? Well, 62,000 is too many. It's impossible to triage. It will take you forever to go through 62,000 studies. So this is too broad. This doesn't work. It just doesn't work. But if you do something like this, if you go on the opposite spectrum, you will be too narrow in your search. You will find just 5 results, and that's too narrow. So in step number 4, you have to do this analogy of the fisherman to really set a strategy that's broad enough so you don't miss any studies, but it can't be so broad. It can't be too broad. Otherwise, you will have a triage that is impossible. So you have to figure out this balance. And how do you figure out this balance? Well, you have to use the right tools in your search. You have to learn how to use keywords, Boolean operators, quotation marks, and controlled vocabulary. You have to learn how to use these 4 tools. At the very least, there are other tools, but with these 4 tools, you can do very, very powerful things. Okay? Okay? With these 4 tools, you can do powerful things, and they're quite simple. Okay? So here's an example. It sounds complicated. It sounds out of this world, but what I'm just showing you here is very simple on the back end. There are parentheses and quotation marks where they should be. There are Boolean operators in bold, and there is a filter for randomized control trials. So this is how you build a really, really effective search strategy, and that's exactly what we teach in class 4 of the Meta-Analysis Academy. In that example that I've shown you, our search found 1,000 results. 1,000 is a beautiful number because it's not 62,000 and it's not just 5. 1,000 studies you can triage quite effectively. And that's what we're going to learn in class number 6 in just a second. Search strategy is all about finding the right balance, between too broad or too narrow. You have to go in the middle. You have to find all the studies that you want, but you can't be too broad to make it impossible. Okay? All right, guys, before we go to step number 5, I have a quick question for you. If you could tell your friend who's not here right now, if you could tell a colleague who's not here, what are they missing? What would you say? If you just leave in the chat for me, like one sentence, what are you missing? If you could just tell a colleague, a friend from medical school, someone who works with you in the hospital, in just one sentence, what are they missing? Before we go on to the next steps, just write that down for me here. Okay? Game changer, Rodolfo said. Quality information, Ariana. What not? What else? Once in a lifetime opportunity. I like this one from Jose Bueno. All right, we need more. Make sure you write down in the chat, what are your colleagues missing? All right. So this person said that the teacher is good. Thank you for saying that. A chance of transforming your career. Information about meta-analysis, more than information. It's a great opportunity. All right. Okay, I like this one. I really like this one by Dr. Richards. All right, very good. So of course, you know that the reason why I ask you this is because I actually want you to tell them that. Okay. All right. So of course, we put a lot of energy in doing these guys. You know, it's a weekend here in Boston. It's actually the first time in months that there's good weather. Yesterday was 11 Celsius, amazing weather yesterday. So it's a lot of time and energy and dedication that we put into this, into the publication roadmap. And it's important for us to get this message out to a broad audience. So I'm just going to give you guys a 30-second break right now, just so you can go and text this in your groups. Share the links with them. You can grab the link from your browser and just share with them. I'm just going to give you another 20 seconds to complete that. Make sure you send them whatever you told me here in the chat, okay? Great guidance, life-changing opportunity to excel in meta-analysis. So in another 10 seconds, I'm going to come back, but I really need you guys to let them know, okay? Missing out on the first weekend of good weather in about 3 months. Okay, so because I really enjoy being with you guys, I really think that this is transformative in your career, just like it was for myself. Okay, so make sure you guys just let all of them know. Before we move on, I'm going to answer the question from Mohammed. If someone is in molecular biology, genetics, or I'm going to make this even more broad: nutrition, nursing, pharmacy, whatever your field is, as long as it's in healthcare, you can apply meta-analysis in the same way that I'll teach you. All right, I like this one here. This is the final one I'm going to show. Very good. All right, so let's go ahead and get back on track. I just need the confirmation for you guys that you told your friends. Very important. Okay, so let's go ahead now and talk about medical databases. That's step number 5. Once you build an effective search strategy, you're going to go into databases and you're going to search for the actual studies. Step number 4 was just putting the search strategy together. It was not actually doing the search. Step number 4 is to build the search strategy that you will use in the search in steps number 5. So which databases will you use? You will use PubMed. PubMed is the search engine of the National Library of Medicine. So you're actually searching the United States government, the NIH, National Library of Medicine. But you use that using a search strategy like Google, but the search strategy is called PubMed. And PubMed is not a journal. A lot of people don't know that, but PubMed is the search engine for the National Library of Medicine, okay? You will not search just PubMed. You will search 3 databases. There are others you could use, okay? I'm going to put here the most common ones. Most commonly, people use PubMed, Cochrane, and one database from Elsevier, which is either Embase or Scopus. They're very similar to each other, so you can use either one. So you're going to search PubMed, Embase, and Cochrane. There are other tools that you could use, like Web of Science, but these are the most common ones that most people use. And the search strategies are slightly different for each one of them. So you have to adapt the search strategy. You build the search strategy for PubMed. It may not be the same one that you're going to use on Embase. It may not be the same one that you're going to use in Cochrane. You have to adapt the search strategy to each database. And that's what we teach in step number 5. Now in step number 6, we're gonna put a little bit more work. It's the most time-consuming process of the whole meta-analysis is step number 6 and then writing. Step number 6 and writing are the most time-consuming steps of the entire process, okay? So what do we do in step number 6? This is what we do. Remember this search strategy I built with you guys? There's 1,000 results. This is a beautiful number to triage. Once you start getting close to 2,000, it becomes harder and harder and harder. But if you have 1,000, 700, 500, 1,300, those are all numbers that is very possible to triage. Even though this has to be clear to you guys, the goal is not a specific number. The goal is the right search strategy that is not too broad, not too narrow. The number is a consequence of the right strategy. We don't change the strategy to beat a specific number. We build the right strategy and find the right number. It has to be about the strategy, not about the number. That's why we train tons of search strategy with our students in step number 4. But presuming you did a great job in defining your search strategy, now you have to work on this number, and that's step number 6. Now you have to do triage. And you may think, what does that mean, triage? It means finding out among these 1,000 studies, which ones do I want and which ones do I not want. That's what that means. So what do we want? We want studies that meet our P-code question. We defined the P-code question in step number 2. But in these 1,000 results, there are plenty of studies that I'm not interested in. The search strategy is not where you differentiate studies that you want versus studies that you don't want. It is not in the search strategy. It is not in step number 4. This is a very common rookie mistake. People getting mad that their search strategy finds studies that are not of interest. Your search strategy will always find studies that are not of interest. It is not in the search strategy that you're going to differentiate included versus included. It is in step number 6. It is in the triage. But how you're going to do triage is critical. You cannot do this manually. You cannot just go over each study, open them in PubMed, and look at the abstract. If you were to do that, it would take forever. You have to use certain software to decide if you're going to include or exclude any of these 1,000 studies. So how do we determine what we include versus what we exclude? Answer that for me. Answer that for me. How do we determine if we're going to include versus exclude a study? The P-code question. The P-code question. Okay? So I've put you examples here from this own meta-analysis that I published that showed studies that I wanted to include versus studies that I did not want to include. How did I make that differentiation? The P-code question. The P-code question puts a very clear line into apples and oranges. Apples I want, oranges I don't want. So now that I've decided to exclude some studies, actually the question is, how do we do this? So you're going to use some software, okay? Now, there are free options and there are paid options. So Zotero is a great software. It's free. Ryan is a great software. There's a free version you can use. Those are the 2 most commonly used ones. You can also use EndNote, Mendeley for this. You can use Covidence, but that's a paid software. It's very expensive. Zotero does this and it's free. Ryan does it and it's free. You just simply learn how to use the software that you're going to gain a lot of time in your triage, okay? Of course, each of these modules, each of these topics is an entire class in the Meta-Analysis Academy with exercises, with a CPT, curricular practical training. So each of these topics will spend a couple of hours, a few hours, understanding, doing a deep dive in each of these steps. Very hands-on training. But I'm giving you an in-depth overview of how the process works. Next is data extraction. What exactly are we going to extract from the studies and which studies? So listen, in step number 4, we built a great research strategy. Then we went to the literature, PubMed, Embase, Cochrane. Now, in step number 6, we selected the studies. It's the longest part of the whole process is triage. Triage is the longest process, but after a few days of work, we finally found 7 studies. For example, let's say that we've decided to include 7 studies in the meta-analysis. 7. What do we do now? Well, the next step is to extract the data from these studies. What data do you think we're going to collect? We're going to collect which data from these studies? 2 types of data. There are 2 things we want to collect. We want to collect data for baseline characteristics of the studies, and we want to collect outcomes data. Let me explain to you with a very, very practical example. Let's take a look at this publication here from Dr. Ezina. Dr. Ezina is from Nigeria originally, and now he is a resident in internal medicine in Boston, in one of the Boston programs, okay? University of Massachusetts, okay? So Dr. Ezina is from Nigeria. He worked here with a few colleagues from the Meta-Analysis Academy, okay? Some from Argentina, some from India. And they published this in the American Journal of Cardiology. American Journal of Cardiology, really great journal in the field of cardiology. I myself have published there previously. This is on the efficacy of cardiac myosin inhibitors versus placebo in symptomatic obstructive HCM. So this publication here, guys, has 5 studies. This publication has 5 studies. Okay, you guys with me? This is the baseline characteristics table. It's typically table 1, where we put the age, the sex distribution, and the characteristics of each study. So in this meta-analysis, they included 5 studies, but you have to get the data from those 5 studies. You have to go and find the data from each study. Okay? So you go to each of the 5 studies and collect what's the age, the number of patients, how many had hypertension, and you do that in step number 7. You do the data extraction, the data collection from each study in step number 7. What are you going to collect? Baseline characteristics for table 1, but also outcomes data. So this is from the same paper by Dr. Chiruben, and in this paper here, they put 2 different they had more outcomes, but I got these 2 as an example, where they have one outcome called a gradient of pressure in the left ventricle, and the other outcome is improvement in symptoms. But these numbers, they didn't get it from their own heads, they got it from those papers. So this step, on step number 7, you have to go to each paper and collect the baseline characteristics, and you have to collect the outcomes as well. In the Meta-Analysis Academy, we even teach you how to use artificial intelligence, AI, to help you extract this data. But you still have to manually verify everything. There are ways to make it more efficient, but you have to manually verify because, as you know, AI can make mistakes. All right, so very important. Step number 7, collecting data, extracting data for statistical analysis. You need the numbers. I'm not talking about running statistics yet because we're going to run that in the next step. But you need the number. 80 patients had improvement in functional class. The total number of patients was 123. You need to collect those numbers, and that's step number 7. Collect it from the individual papers. Everyone good about that? Yes? Oh, everyone fine on step number 7? Good. So Sawati asked, how can we join the Meta-Analysis Academy? I'm going to put that at the end. We're going to put, when we get done for the 10 steps, I'm going to put the registration link for you guys to join the Meta-Analysis Academy, the next edition. Okay, so stay tuned for that. And then also, we're going to give you a statistics handbook at the end. So stay tuned for that as well. Very good. So let's keep going on, because now we have to talk about Bartos said that this is a lot of work. Well, absolutely, it's a lot of work. What's the alternative? Do you want to build a protocol for a randomized controlled trial? Do you want to spend 3 months waiting for ethics committee approval? Do you want to spend 6 months getting data from charts and not know if your paper is going to be published? Of course, that there's work involved. Absolutely, there's work involved. You can't expect that it's going to be easy. It's just that it's possible, it's within your reach, it's doable. Thousands of our students from all over the world have done it, and you can do it as well. But there's definitely work involved, no doubt about it. You have to read the papers, extract the data, do the triage. There's work. That's how life is, okay? All right. So let's get back right into it. All right. So Abba asked, in the Meta-Analysis Academy, do we learn all these steps? Well, I'm going to explain that in a little bit more detail at the end. But in the Meta-Analysis Academy, you have a deep dive in each of these topics. Each of the modules is one of the steps that we've discussed. So you're going to have an exercise. You're going to have tutoring sessions. You're going to have a live session with me discussing each step. We do an exercise together. So I'm going to talk about how to join the Meta-Analysis Academy and how it works at the end, okay? But yes, absolutely you do. Let's talk about statistics, everyone. Let's talk about statistics. Meta-analysis statistics, step number 8. So when I talk about statistics, you guys think that it's some crazy math out of this world that you need a PhD in biostatistics to do. But the answer, the truth is, doing meta-analysis statistics is not done by you. It's not done by you. You don't do it. The software does it. What you need to learn is how to operate the statistical software and know what it means, the answers, the outputs. You do not need to do the math behind it. The statistical software will run the math for you. So you don't need to know this. Okay, what you need to know is simple operations. I'm not joking. You need to know doing simple operations, and you need to learn how to operate the software. Now, you may say, well, yeah, but the software is complicated. Not all of them. Okay, in the Meta-Analysis Academy, we teach 2 different software. We teach Cochrane Review Manager, and we teach R. R is more complex. As you know, it involves programming language. It is more complex, but there is a very simple and straightforward way of doing therapeutic meta-analysis. It's called Review Manager. There's a free version online. There's a paid version as well. And our students, everyone learns Review Manager, and we also teach RStudio, which is programming at the highest level of doing statistical analysis. So the reason why our program works so well, it's because it works for people of all backgrounds and levels of training. It's because we don't care if you're a PhD or a first-year medical student. We don't care if you're in orthopedics or if you're in vascular surgery. We don't care if you're from Nigeria or if you're from the United States. We'll train you in doing meta-analysis from the very beginning, from the very basics, and walk you all the way to the level that you want to go, including the highest level. So students who want to learn just the basics and do simple reviews and meta-analysis and publish simpler papers, do RevMen. People who want to do meta-regression and they want to do diagnostic meta-analysis and they want to do the network meta-analysis, the highest level of research that there is in meta-analysis, you need RStudio for those, and we teach you that as well. So that's why our program is so effective, because we love everybody. We want to take care of everyone, and we want to help all of you guys, regardless of your background and knowledge. And statistics is a beautiful example of this, because we start from the very beginning. We presume you know nothing, but then we go to the highest levels. So in our statistical module, there is statistical classes from the very basics. We teach Review Manager. We teach R software. We teach diagnostic meta-analysis. We teach single arm meta-analysis, very useful in oncology, genetics, all the surgical fields, because you deal with rare outcomes and rare populations. So if you want to do a meta-analysis on a novel surgery that no one's done before, you're not going to find a lot of comparative studies. So you need to do a single arm meta-analysis. So we teach that. We teach network meta-analysis. We teach continuous outcomes in meta-analysis. So we teach everything in our statistical module, everything that may be a useful tool to you. That's why our program works so well. And it's hands-on. Remember, there's an exercise for each module. Every single module has its own exercise. So you're not going to learn just about statistics. You're going to do statistics, download the software, run the codes, generate the forest plots, interpret the results. You're going to do all of that. You see these forest plots here in the slide? I'm going to even make them bigger and remove myself. Look, these forest plots here, they were not done by me. They were done by one of our students when he did the exercise for class number 8. So it's someone who had no experience in research before, never had done statistics for meta-analysis, and he did these graphs because he learned about statistics and did the exercise for class 8. Okay? So statistics is not complicated. You will learn how to operate the software and understand what the output means, and that's how you do the statistical analysis. You will not pay someone else to do your statistics. Let me tell you something. We have a student from the Meta-Analysis Academy. Let me tell you this story because it's going to be very helpful to you. We have a student from the Meta-Analysis Academy who joined, I think, maybe 2 years ago. And before he joined the academy, he had done his own project, his own meta-analysis, but he didn't know how to do statistics. So he paid a statistician to do it for him. It was about $500 that he paid for one project. And this wasn't even in the United States, it was in Brazil. And in the United States, it's considerably more expensive. But he paid about $500 for this statistician to do one of his meta-analysis, the statistics. And then this guy joined the Meta-Analysis Academy later, after this project. Since then, he's run all his statistics, and he says that they're much better than the one he paid the statistician to do. As far as I know, I may be wrong because we have hundreds, thousands of students at this point, in the Meta-Analysis Academy throughout the years. I may be wrong, but I am not aware of any of our students who have ever paid a statistician to do their meta-analysis. Again, we have thousands of publications from our students. I am not aware of a single person who's done our program and has ever paid a statistician to do their statistical analysis. You learn how to do it so you don't have to pay people to do your own project or depend on anyone else. Okay? Let's talk about writing. Let's talk about writing up the manuscript. That's step number 9. When you write the paper, you are going to follow this specific sequence. You're not going to start with the introduction. You're going to start with methods, then results. Why are you going to start with methods and results? Because what you do and write and find in your results will dictate how you do the introduction and the discussion. So you don't start with the introduction, you start with the methods and the results. The other reason why you start with methods and results is that essentially you've done all of this already. That's what you did in steps 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. You did methods and results. So now you just have to put in a piece of paper what you did and what you found. It takes one morning to write methods. It takes one day or another half a day to write the results because it's already done. You already did all of that in steps 1 through 8. So you don't have to do anything else. You just have to write what you did. And we teach you how to do that in class 9 of the Meta Academy. The introduction and the discussion are a little bit more tricky. The discussion requires planning, requires more work. It's a separate step in and of itself. And the conclusion is quite easy to do. But you're going to write in the sequence when you do your writing. Okay? One point I want to make is about English language. Most of you guys have English as a second language, like myself. English is my second language. For most of you, English is your second language. And some of you guys may have very limited skills in speaking and writing. You may understand, of course, I presume you understand because you're listening to me, but you may have limited skills in speaking and writing in English. If that's the case, I want to assure you that you will improve your skills as you join and participate in the program, because it's a total and full immersion in English language. So why do I put this example here? Because this is one of the best journals in hematology, European Journal of Hematology. This is a phenomenal journal in hematology. This is recent publication just a few months ago. This publication by Roberto. Roberto is a fourth-year medical student, and his English level when he joined the program was very basic, very, very basic. He could not have a conversation or have any significant writing skills in English. And over the course of the program, he's got so much better to the point that he published his first author in European Journal of Hematology. I'm going back to this point of autonomy, of skills, developing skills, because I don't mean to say that any of this is easy. Let me be very clear. There is work on your part. You have to do the exercises. You have to watch the lectures, but it's work that's manageable. It's work that's a few hours per week. I'm going to explain to you the timeline in just a second. It's work that's very effective use of your time. If you're busy, it doesn't mean you don't have time. It just means you can't waste time. You can't waste time on a project that you're not going to publish. You can't waste time on a project that has no value, like a case report. You can't waste time on initiatives that will not bring you value, publications, career development. And learning English, developing your writing skills, learning statistical analysis, doing publications of high impact with autonomy are at the top of the list of things you should be doing with your time. So this is very important that you understand that English is not a barrier. It will be something you will work as you develop these skills. Okay, let's talk about the final step. Okay, let's talk about the final steps. All right. Young asked if AI practitioners can join the meta-analysis. Yes, we have several publications in AI. I'll show you at the end. Okay, guys. So let's talk about the final step. You guys with me? This is one of the most important ones. If you did everything right until this point and you mess up on step number 10, you lost the game. Okay? You've lost. Because making a mistake here could compromise your paper entirely. So you need to have really great skills in terms of submitting and publishing the paper, dealing with the editorial board, picking the right journal, writing the rebuttal letter, all these different steps that are needed to finally get your paper published. Okay? All right. So when you're done with your paper, with your project, you can collect the prize in two different ways. So again, you did all of that, steps 1 through 9. You did a great job. You got a nice statistics. You did the writing. Now you have a paper or an abstract that's ready to submit. You're going to collect the prize. You're going to get the recognition of your work in two different ways. First, presenting at a conference. Second, by publishing the paper in a peer-reviewed journal that's indexed in PubMed. So let's start with the conferences. When you submit to a conference, you have to pick a conference that's relevant. Pick a conference that's meaningful to your career. Don't submit it to the medical school symposium. And if you do, make sure you also present it at a conference that has value. American College of Cardiology, European Society of Medical Oncology. At the very least, something national in your own country. At the very least, the Colombian Meeting of Cardiology. Don't do it something local, regional, that has no value at all. Make sure you're picking the conferences in the world that are in the spotlight of your field. That's where you want to present. That's where you want to be seen. Like these are students from the Meta-Analysis Academy. Carolina, I've shown you a few times. This is also Carol. This is Larissa and Amanda. These three are first-year med students, and Amanda is from the United Kingdom, a fourth-year med student. They presented at the Endocrine Society. That's the largest global meeting in endocrinology. And that's how you get conference abstracts, okay? And why is it so important to get conference abstracts? Not only you get to present your research, but you can win awards. Of course, this is not for all abstracts that you present at a conference, but loads of our students get awards internationally because they're great papers, they're great research projects, they're meta-analysis. So I'm just showing you a small sample of this. This is Igor. Igor is a 6-year medical student. He won Best Poster in the shoulder category in Germany at the European Orthopedic Meeting, EFORT, in Germany, as a medical student, Best Poster. This is a 2nd-year medical student, won an award at the United European Gastroenterology Week in Vienna. Luis won a merit award from the American Society of Clinical Oncology in California. These students from Costa Rica won the Paul Dudley White International Award at the International Stroke Conference. At the International Stroke Conference, also, another student of ours won $2,500 for a travel award. So you get the opportunity to get grants, travel awards, prizes, and there's also the networking for conferences. So networking, awards, and presenting the abstract is really, really neat. And conferences are a great way for you to be seen, for you to get visibility to your research and to yourself. But they're not the most important prize. The most important prize of your research is the publication. The most important prize of your research is publishing in a great journal, in a really, really great journal. Okay? This is what you should strive for. Never stop just at the conference. You want to publish like this, European Journal of Trauma and Emergency Surgery, a really top journal in the field of trauma surgery. So this is what you want, the publication in PubMed, the publication in a peer-reviewed journal. Okay? All right? Very good. So this colleague here asked if how long does it take to get the first publication? Okay, I'm going to explain that later on in just a second, but I just want to remind everyone what I talked about yesterday. How long does it take on average to do a meta-analysis? Do you guys remember? I talked about this yesterday. If you missed day 1 of the publication roadmap, you should watch it. You know, these 2 days are equally important. We talked yesterday about career development, which is really important, the reasons why to do it, and breaking barriers of research. But we also talked about breaking the barrier of time. It takes on average, 5 to 7 weeks to doing a meta-analysis. So November is plenty of time. Okay? Back to this. There are some rules when you pick a journal. Write down these rules. Write down these rules. Rule number 1, that journal must be on PubMed. Don't submit your paper to predatory journals. Don't submit your paper to journals that are not on PubMed. It is a waste of time, a waste of your project. Number one rule, it must be on PubMed. Rule number two, this is not a must. This is a suggestion. Avoid open access journals. I'm going to explain to you what those are, but essentially they're journals that charge you money. They want money for you to publish your paper there. And rule number three, you have to find the right balance between impact and strength of your paper and impact and strength of the journal. You can't submit an average paper to the best journal in your specialty, and you can't submit a really great paper to an average journal in your specialty. You have to find that balance. That's rule number three. This is how you pick a journal. It must be on PubMed, avoid open access journals, and you have to find the right balance between the impact and strength of the paper and the journal where you're submitting. Let's talk about open access journals. You want to avoid these open access journals. Why? Because they charge you authorship publication charges, APCs. What are APCs? APCs is money that the journal charges you to publish in their journal. Why do they charge this? Because they're for-profit institutions. Okay, these are published. These are a publisher like Elsevier, Wolters Kluwer, many other publishers. They're for-profit institutions. They want to make money. Now, there are journals that don't charge you, author, but charge the readers. We call those subscription-based journals. So you want to go to the journals that are not open access. You want to go to the journals that don't charge you a fee, but charge the readers, the subscribers. Those journals don't charge you a publication fee. Okay, so there are two types of journals, open access and by subscription. By the way, these subscription-based journals, they're called hybrid because most of them also offer open access. Meaning, if you want your paper to be available to everyone, you could pay the publication fee, but you don't have to pay the publication fee. So you always want to submit to these hybrid journals or these subscription-based journals so you don't have to pay authorship publication charges. These authorship publication charges could be $3,000, $4,000. They're really, really expensive, okay? And how do you find these journals? That's what we're going to talk about now. On average, the open access journals are easier to get accepted. They're worse journals. Let me go back to this. So on average, open access journals are inferior. It doesn't mean that all open access journals are bad journals. No, I said on average. Why? Because quality isn't really their main thing. Money is really important to them. Okay? Quality isn't at the top priority. Okay? But subscription-based journals, quality tends to be a priority because if they don't get really good quality papers, how are they going to sell it to their subscribers? They need higher impact papers. They need higher impact in their papers accepted. So this is a generalization. It doesn't apply to every specific journal. You have to understand that I'm being very broad here. But subscription-based journals, they're better journals generally because they need to have great papers. They want to attract great papers because then they're going to sell it to universities, to subscribers. That's how they make their money. They're going to run ads in their journals, like the New England Journal of Medicine runs a lot of ads. Okay, but it's harder to get your paper accepted in these great journals. Why? Because they're better journals. It's harder to get your paper accepted there. It's easier to get your paper accepted in open access journals. But how are you going to get your paper accepted in these journals that don't charge you a fee. How? How, guys? You are going to get great quality publications. You're going to publish such great papers that even the best journals want your paper. So among the Meta-Analysis Academy, more than 90% of the publications of our students, more than 90% are in subscription-based journals or hybrid journals. They don't have to pay publication fees. Okay? All right? Okay, this is a misconception. Let me put this on the screen because people think this and it is wrong. It is a misconception. People think that you will get more citations if you go to open access journals. It is not true. It is not true because the citation depends above everything else, on the quality of your paper. And if you go to the better journals, you get more visibility, even if it's not open access. So the two most important factors for your paper to get citations are quality of your paper and the journal where you publish. The better the journal makes a more impact than if it's open access. Okay? But this is a common misconception that people have, that if you publish on open access, it's better to get citations. It's not accurate. What's accurate is quality of the paper and quality of the journal, more important than whether it's open access or not. Okay? So now that you understand this, let me teach you a very powerful tool to find these journals. Someone asked, how can I actually find the journals? Actually, before we talk about that, let's answer this question here. How to know if the paper is great? This comes with experience, and it's dependent on 4 elements. What determines if a paper is great, or how great is a paper? Remember, it's not a binary thing. It's not great versus not great. It's a continuous. The better your paper has these 4 elements, the stronger it will be. So what are the 4 elements? What are the 4 elements? Number one, the idea. Is it a hot topic? Is it something people are interested in? Is it something that people are talking about? Is there controversy? The topic, it all starts with the idea. Number 2, what type of methods did you do? Did you do a meta-analysis and it was well done? Did you do a randomized control trial and it was well done? If so, you get bonus points. If so, you get really robust methods. But if you did a case report, or if you did a really poor meta-analysis, or if you did, a really bad retrospective review of charts, the methods are really important. The idea, the methods. Number 3, the findings. What were the results? Were the results interesting? Were they relevant? Were they impactful? And the results are often out of your control. Like, you can't change the results. You do an experiment and you find results. But if the results are interesting, novel, unexpected, these are things that will make your paper more valuable. Number 4, the writing, the delivery. Did you write really well? Did you use the right angle? Did you do well in the English writing? Did you organize your paper in a great way? So the presentation, how you deliver that information. So using these 4 elements, you and your team will decide, I think we have a really great paper, or, I think we have an average paper. So that's how you are going to determine. And this comes with experience and with mentors. And I'm going to explain to you in just a second how you're going to find your own mentors. I'm going to find that. But this comes with experience and with mentors. And I'm going to explain to you how you're going to get these mentors in just a second. Okay? All right? Very good. Yeah, so Razan summarized it very nicely here for us. These are the 4 elements that will, a controversial and hot topic idea, great methods like doing a meta-analysis. That's why meta-analysis are published in great journals. That's why our students published in JAMA Cardiology, British Journal of Hematology, European Radiology, and all these great journals. Interesting findings, and the writing and delivery. Very good. All right, so how to find a mentor, how to form a team, I'm going to explain to you in just a second. Okay, great questions here. I'll see you guys. I'll talk about that in just a second. Okay, now I'm going to explain to you same thing. I'm going to answer this in just a second. Okay, so let's talk about now how to find the great journal. Okay, how to find the great journal. Let me introduce you guys to a very powerful tool called Jane AI, Jane Artificial Intelligence. Okay, if you go to Google and you just put in Jane AI, you will find this there. Okay, it's a very powerful tool. Once you log in, it's going to look like this. And what you're going to do is you're going to paste your abstract here. Let's say we did this abstract here. Let's say we did this abstract on papilledema and artificial intelligence. Let's read the introduction here. Papilledema is a condition characterized by optic disc swelling due to increased intracranial pressure. The diagnostic modalities are fundus camera and other ophthalmology imaging techniques. The Friesen scale is used to grade the severity of this. And in this paper, we investigate the application of AI, artificial intelligence, for detecting and grading papilledema from fundus. And guess what? It's a systematic review and meta-analysis. And we put this abstract on Jane AI. And then you hit here, find journals. Find journals, okay? You guys ready? We're going to click find journals. You pasted your abstract and you're going to hit find journals. It's going to suggest to you different journals in that field where you may want to publish your paper. Let me ask you this. Do you want, this is not for writing the abstract. Let me be very clear. You wrote this separately. You just pasted the abstract here. Is that clear to everyone? Did everyone understand this? You did not use AI to write this. You wrote this on Word document and then you pasted it here. This is what you did. This is a journal finder. You click find journals. Let me ask you this. You see the ones with the orange tag, high quality open access? Do you see the ones with the orange tag? Do you want to go to those or avoid those? Yes or no for the open access ones? Yes or no for the yellow ones? For the orange ones, excuse me. Yes or no? The answer is a solid no. The reason being that those will charge you publication fees. You're going to go to the ones that are not open access. The number one on the list is computers in biology and medicine. Computers in biology and medicine. Okay? So that's where our students publish this paper. This publication is done by Paweł Lazjak. Sorry if I mispronounced that to my Polish friends. So this was published in Computers in Biology and Medicine. It's a great journal in the field of AI and computers, okay? And it's from our friends from Poland. Paweł is one of our students from Poland. So unveiling artificial intelligence role in papilledema diagnosis from fundus images. It's a systematic review with diagnostic test accuracy meta-analysis. And it's not an open access journal. He did not have to pay a fee to publish there. Why? Because it's such a great paper that he got accepted into a journal that is not open access. Did everyone get that? Is that clear to everyone? So this is how you do this, okay? Free and good journals at the same time. Yes, I explained to you that the better journals are the free ones. Is that clear to everyone? The better journals are the free ones. The ones that charge you authorship publication charges are the inferior journals on average. If you look at Lancet, New England, JAMA, JACC, Ophthalmology, Neurosurgery, the best journals in every field do not charge publication fees. They charge subscribers for access to the journals, to the papers. Okay? So that's how Pavel published this in this great journal without paying a publication fee, because it's a meta-analysis well done on a hot topic, and he published it in a great journal. All right. So having gone through all the steps, I want to explain to you guys now all the details about the Meta-Analysis Academy and offer you more insights on how you're going to learn about this. Okay? So in the Meta-Analysis Academy, it all starts with an introduction module. The reason why our program works so well for people with no background in research is because we teach you the background. We give you the background. In the Meta-Analysis Academy, you learn basics of statistics, study design, P-code question, types of publications, basics of PubMed, measures of association like risk ratio, odds ratios, hazard ratio. You learn all of this even before you start the program. Even before you start the 10 modules, you learn the background, the foundation, the pillars of your training. So it all starts with this introduction module in the Meta-Analysis Academy. Next, after you go through the introduction module, you're going to go through these 10 steps that you're well familiar with at this point. You're going to go to the 10 steps of the Meta-Analysis Academy. We talked about them in detail, but now I'm going to go one step further. I'm going to show you our 3-part process of how each module works. Before I do that, I want it to be very clear to you how you're going to get this level of autonomy. The reason why you're going to get autonomy is because you will learn all the different elements of doing a meta-analysis. You learn how to develop your own ideas. You learn methods. You learn statistics. You learn writing and submission. You learn all these different steps in the Meta-Analysis Academy. So that's why our students get the highest level of autonomy. They don't have to pay a statistician to do it for them. They don't have to ask other people for ideas. You can, but you don't have to. You learn how to write. You learn all the methods. Now, each of those 10 modules has 3 parts. First, you're going to watch a lecture. First, you're going to watch a 1-hour lecture, 1 to 1 hour and a half sometimes, depending on the topic. But it starts, each topic, each module starts with a 1-hour lecture or so. The next step is a lab exercise. The lab exercise is the most important part of the learning process. It's where you get to do each step. So now that you've done the lecture, you go ahead and you're going to implement what you learned. So I showed you, for example, the exercise on statistics of one of our students. You get to do all of this. And these are real examples. These are publications that I've done or the students have done, and you will replicate what we've done in the past. You will replicate our methods, replicate search strategy, replicate statistics, do the writing. So you get, for each step of the way, you get to practice it. That's why it works so well, because it's hands-on training. So this is the lecture, the foundation. The lab exercise is the most important part, and the most fun part is CPT. This is the initial step. This is the most important step, and this is the most fun step. It's the best step, let's put it that way. It's CPT. CPT means curricular practical training. It's a live session that happens at the same time that the publication roadmap happened here. It happens on Sunday mornings. Happens on Sunday mornings for us in the West, Sunday afternoon in Europe and Africa, Sunday evening for those in the Far East. We do it on Sunday so the most people can attend live. And we do it at this time that can accommodate multiple time zones. It will be quite early for some. If you're too far west, it will be a little bit later in the day if you're too far east. That's just the way it is. But in this CPT, we do a live session where I discuss the lab exercise with the students. So I will discuss the exercise with you. I will show you how to do it. I'll answer your questions. I'll go over the details with you. It's interactive. It's dynamic. It's a great, great session. And it gets recorded. So if you miss a live session on CPT, you can watch the recording later on. You can watch the recording. Now, each of those 10 modules that I showed you happens over the course of 1 week. So the full program lasts about 3 months because we do strategic breaks in between classes. So the whole thing lasts about 3 months. Each module is 1 week. Only the statistical module, because it's longer, it'll be 2 weeks. But everything else is just 1 week. And during that time, every week you have a lecture, you have an exercise, a lab exercise, and you have a CPT. The next edition of the program starts immediately. If you decide to join, class number 1 is next weekend. So this week, you get to watch class number 1, you get to do the exercise, you get to do the CPT next Sunday with me. So the class is starting immediately. And then every week from March through May, every week, we have a new lecture. We have a new component. We have a lecture, an exercise, and a CPT for 10 weeks. Okay? So that's the way the program works. But the classes, the didactics, are just one important piece of the pie. The program is actually a lot more than this. The classes are really great. I've given you today a small sample of the didactics on how the program works. You're going to get so much more insights, more in-depth understanding of all of this. But the lectures are not all of it. The CPTs are amazing, but it's not all of it. The lab exercises are transformative, but that's not all of it. The support is what truly sets us apart from anything else you will ever see in your learning journey and research. Let me explain to you how this support works. It has many different forms. Let's talk about the tutoring sessions. We have multiple tutoring sessions. Every single day, we have a tutoring session in this edition of the program. And these tutoring sessions, they happen in English, in Spanish, and we also have a Portuguese cohort. But the English sessions for tutoring are at every single day of the week and different times, like in the afternoon, in the mornings, on weekdays, on weekends. And the tutoring sessions, you can come and ask your questions about anything, about the classes, the exercises. You can ask questions about your own projects. We'll help you with your search strategy. We'll help you with your writing. We'll help you with your statistics. We'll help you with your viability assessment. We'll discuss your projects, your ideas. The tutoring sessions, they're available for you to really develop and strengthen your own projects, okay? These are all in Brasilia time, so you have to make the change, adapt to your local time zones. And if the weekday sessions are too late for you, and they will be for people in Asia, for example, you can always join the weekend tutoring sessions as well. All right. Now, there's also a really strong community. In this community, you're going to meet people that are like you in terms of ambition, in terms of goals, people who will form your network of collaborations. So, for example, these are students that presented at the American College of Cardiology last year. We had a dinner, we had a get-together with them. This is a dinner that we had for the students who came to Boston for the Endocrine Society, the largest global meeting in endocrinology. So you get to meet really fantastic people that will be your cohort, will be a community that does research with you, but people that you connect on a personal level as well. So we have a strong community in all different specialties. We had We had people meet in the surgical conference in California recently. In the American Academy of Dermatology this week, we have a lot of people getting together there as well for those interested in dermatology. So there's a strong community within the Meta-Analysis Academy. And then there's also research groups. Someone had asked, how am I going to meet a research group? And the answer is within the Meta-Analysis Academy. You can pair up in research groups in many different ways. There are multiple, endless possibilities, but there are generally 3 ways in which you can connect with research groups. First, by meeting up with friends. A lot of you guys invited people or will invite people to watch the roadmap and join the Meta-Analysis Academy, and these friends may form research groups with you. We also pair up the students based on common interests. So we get the people that like gastroenterology and we put them in a group. We get the people that like surgery and we put them in a group. So we connect people in small groups, 5 to 7 people, based on common interests. And you get to meet people from all over the world. You've seen research with people from multiple different countries based on common interests, people who like pediatric surgery. Remember, I showed you the paper by Fatime from Dubai. There's people there from many different countries around the world in that paper that, people she met in the Meta-Analysis Academy based on common interests. And then also you get to meet people through the experts program, which I will explain in just a second. Let me show you this beautiful example of 2 friends who did the program together, 2 Isabellas, and they've published multiple papers at this point together because they like each other, they knew each other from before, they joined the Meta-Analysis Academy together, they became masters in meta-analysis, both of them, so they work really well together, and they've published a lot of papers. Isabella graduated medical school in Russia, Isabella graduated medical school in Spain, and they've published a lot of these papers together. Now, there's also people who come together within the Meta-Analysis Academy based on common interests. This is a publication by Cardiac Surgery Interest Group, and there's people here from Germany, from Brazil, from the United Kingdom, from the United States. This is a paper that has people from all over South America, people who met inside the Meta-Analysis Academy. And then the other thing I want to explain to you here is how you're going to find mentors. That was a common question that came up. But before we talk about how you're going to find mentors, I want to make sure you guys really understood the concept of autonomy. Autonomy does not mean doing things alone. Even when I say, you get to do things with autonomy, it doesn't mean doing it alone. It means that you have control of all the different steps in the process. When you get to that level of autonomy, you're going to be able to invite professors, mentors, people to collaborate with you in your projects. You go and find your own mentors. And you can find those mentors in different ways. One way in which you can find those mentors is you can simply invite your professors to participate in your work. So I'm going to play here a video of Enrique explaining this. He's a 4th-year medical student, and he invited his professors to join his research group. And look what they thought of him. Let's see if this plays.
I told the professor, I have a systematic review basically ready. We have the results. I told the professor, I have a systematic review basically ready. We have the results. We have the first plot. We have everything. I would like to know if you want to be part of this, to be our senior author. And we got a meeting. I presented everything, and he accepted. And he helped us in the process. So he got really amazed how I read him with everything ready. And this is exactly what you say in the course.
Yeah, it's exactly it. I mean, it's beautiful that you're able to present yourself as someone not who asks for opportunity, but someone who creates the opportunity. It's totally a game changer. So that's the way it works. You develop the autonomy, and then you get to invite other people to participate in your work. This example here, Patrick published as a third-year medical student in one of the best journals in surgical oncology, called Surgical Oncology, and he invited a thoracic surgeon who didn't know him. He invited Dr. Gross to be his mentor in the project, but Dr. Gross is from a separate institution, a different place than Patrick. You get to invite people both locally and externally to participate as your mentors. And these mentors will provide the clinical surgical insights that you need, even if you are a third-year medical student like Patrick. And then we also have the Experts Program, which is another opportunity for you to find those mentors. Again, you develop your project, you develop autonomy, you learn how to do the steps, and then you invite either your professor, either someone at another institution, or one of our own experts to participate in your work. Every time you invite someone, they may or may not accept. They may have other interests, they may be busy with other things, but if that person doesn't accept, you can invite someone else. You develop that level of autonomy to do your own projects, to do your own research. These are some of the examples of experts we've had in prior editions. People like Dr. Tenorio, who is a cardiac surgeon in the United States. People like Dr. Baraldo, who is an endoscopist in São Paulo, Brazil. People like Dr. Mazzola, who's a general surgeon in North Carolina. We've had experts from all over the world in radiology, nephrology, neurosurgery, and cardiology, and ophthalmology. These experts are inside our community, and when you develop your projects, you can submit an invitation to them to collaborate in your work. Just like you can invite your own professors, just like you can invite someone who's at another institution, like many of our students have done. Look at this beautiful example. This is a publication by Enrique at the American Journal of Obstetrics. He worked with an expert from the Meta-Analysis Academy, Dr. Chris Phillip, who is an OBGYN specialist from Ireland. So Enrique invited Dr. Phillip to be a mentor to him in this work in the American Journal of Obstetrics and Gynecology. This is a publication at a really top journal by one of our teams paired up with experts. Dr. Phillip is an OBGYN specialist from the country of Ireland. And then another way in which we support our students is with our wonderful, wonderful publication drive. In the publication drive, you have templates for you to do all the different steps in a meta-analysis, templates for doing data extraction, templates for figures, templates for forest plots, templates for letters of the editors, rebuttal letters, dealing with the editors, templates for posters and oral presentations, templates for risk of bias assessment, statistical analysis, table ones. So you get, for example, in the letters and emails folders, you have templates that you have to edit and adapt for your own research. But for cover letters, for rebuttal letters, for letter of support to avoid authorship publication charges, templates to request for data, templates for research fellowship, a ton of different templates in our publication drive that will help you in your process of doing a systematic review and meta-analysis. So after explaining all of that, let's talk about the tuition of just how much it costs to join the Meta-Analysis Academy. So let's talk about what is the financial cost to joining the program. If you decide to join the Meta-Analysis Academy through the publication roadmap, you're going to get a substantial discount. Remember that the cost to conduct a meta-analysis itself is nothing. It's zero. It doesn't cost anything to do a meta-analysis, okay? You do not have to pay for a statistician. You do not have to pay for software. You can use free software. Even the database problem that someone mentioned in the chat, there are legal ways of getting access to databases that you can do a meta-analysis. Okay, so the cost to conduct a meta-analysis is zero. You don't have to pay anyone to do it for you. You have to acquire the skills of doing it yourself. Remember, there is also no authorship publication charges in the best journals. Remember, there are good journals that are open access, but on average, the better journals are subscription-based journals, and you don't have to pay a fee to have your abstract, your paper accepted in the best journals. And then, before I announce you the cost, I want to remind you all of a few things. The first is that through meta-analysis, you can be anywhere in the world. You know, I brought an example here of Elísio. Elísio is from one of the most rural areas in South America. One of the most rural areas in northern Brazil, in the state of Pará, right here in the north. And even being in one of the most remote areas in the country, he published as a third-year medical student in a top journal in cardiology called Heart Rhythm, one of the best journals in the field of electrophysiology. So it doesn't matter if you're from Poland like Pavel, if you're from Romania like Marian, it doesn't matter if you're like Fatime from Dubai, like Chris from Ireland. It doesn't matter if you're from Mexico, Colombia, Pakistan, like Sarah. You can do this no matter where you are in the world. Okay? And I also want to remind you of the reason why you're doing this. Because of your future career, because of your career development, because of opportunities like Luca, who got a free scholarship to do a master's at Johns Hopkins, which normally costs $70,000 a year. He got a scholarship, read over here, because of a strong CV. He does not have to pay anything out of the $70,000 per year. I want to remind you, all of our students, obviously they're not all in the slide here, but multiple of our students who matched in great programs all around the United States because of really strong research, including general surgery, including OBGYN, including top programs like the University of Colorado. Lots of our students have gotten international rotations like Raquel, like Marcelo, because of collaborations and publications and networking within the Meta-Analysis Academy. Marcelo himself worked with the chief of electrophysiology at one of the Harvard hospitals, and because of that, had the opportunity to do research, to do an observership with him as well. Okay, so what is the price to join the Meta-Analysis Academy? Well, normally it's 12 installments of $200 US, 12 installments every month, $200 US, but we're gonna give you guys here in the publication roadmap a significant, a substantial discount offer. We're going to lower this price. Instead of installments of $200, we're going to give you a discount for installments of $120 US. So what does this mean? I'm just going to make sure the QR code is the correct QR code. I want to make sure I change this here. So what does this mean? This means that you pay every month $120 US for 12 months. So you don't have to pay it in installments. If you want to pay it all up front, you can. There's an extra discount for that. You will find that in the page here when you register. But we realize that the full amount might be prohibitive for some people around the world. So we created a form of registration where you pay a smaller fee every month for 12 months. Again, the full tuition is the full 12 installments. You don't have to pay it in installments. You could pay it in 3, in 1, in 2, however you prefer. but we let you break it up in up to 12 installments, okay? If you want to register, our team is going to put registration here in the link. We'll put the link in the chat. If you want to join, remember that this covers everything that we talked about. It covers the statistical modules, it covers the writing, the ideas, the methods, everything. And this is actually about 1/3 of the authorship publication charges that open access journals will charge you. With about 1/3 of what authorship publication charges cost, broken up into 12 installments, you will learn a method that gives you independence, autonomy, networking, and the ability to publish in journals that are better than open access journals, so you don't have to pay the authorship publication charges. So this is the Meta-Analysis Academy. That's how it works. If you guys have any specific questions, you can send me a direct message on the Meta-Analysis Academy Instagram. And I'm going to close off with some of the publications from our students in every single specialty, from anesthesiology to vascular surgery. Okay? So, there's also a bonus. I want to tell you guys about a bonus in just a second, about our CV premium bonus. Let me talk about this in just a second. So these are some of the publications ranging from anesthesiology to family medicine, geriatrics, hepatology, infectious diseases. Oh, someone wanted to talk about, I think, artificial intelligence. I showed a few publications of that already. This is a publication in neurosurgery, OBGYN, nephrology, ophthalmology, plastic surgery, great publication in plastic surgery right here. Orthopedics European Spine Journal, pathology. This is in nutrition and artificial intelligence. Look at this one, artificial intelligence in anterior chamber evaluation in the Journal of Glaucoma. This is also a publications. These are publications by students at very different levels of training. Pre-med students, first-year med students, interns, research fellows, residents, MD PhDs like Leonardo, who is a breast cancer specialist. He's a PhD already, joined our program and published at the European Society of Medical Oncology. Dr. Jackson is a neurosurgeon, a spine surgeon. This one here by a colleague who's a nutritionist, Dr. Ruelas, Mariano Ruelas. So these are publications in all specialties by different levels of training, and this is the tuition. Now, we do have a special bonus available in the last few positions for you also to get access to our CV Premium. Our CV Premium is a separate course where we teach you how to prepare your CV, where we teach you how to give oral presentations and conferences. We teach you how to get observerships and clerkships in the United States. It has more of a career focus than the publications itself. It's a bonus. It's an extra bonus. We have a few positions available for that as well if you register right away. So with that, our team is also going to put here in the link in the chat the ebook on statistical analysis. It's an ebook that we've prepared for you. We've promised it for people who are watching it live. I believe the team has already put the link over here, but the ebook is available here in the chat for those of you who want to access it. If you're watching it live, it won't be available later. And then make sure to register and join the Meta-Analysis Academy. We'll send the link also in the groups of the publication roadmap for registration. This tuition price is only available until Wednesday. Until Wednesday, let me look at the exact date. It'll be Wednesday, March 5th. Wednesday, March 5th, 2025. It will be your last opportunity to register at this discount rate. So if you want to join the Meta-Analysis Academy, this is your opportunity. I hope you enjoyed our chat here today. It's been lovely to share this Sunday morning with you. I hope this was helpful to you. And I'm going to leave you here with a few results of our students. Hopefully this will inspire you into transforming your own professional career with publications and meta-analysis. Okay. All right. So, and one final thing. Do not leave this opportunity for later. Do not postpone this in your career. Remember what I said yesterday. Your results in 2026 and 2027 depend on registering in early 2025. You will get your first results within a few months if you decide to join, of course, as we talked about earlier. It takes about 5 to 7 weeks, but you get better and better over time. You develop more ideas, you become more efficient, you meet more people, you expand your network. So in 2025, you will get your first results, absolutely, but they will be shy. There will be early results. They won't be the highest impact publications that you'll have in your career. There won't be in a lot of publications yet. It'll be your first few steps. You will present at conferences in 2025, but in 2026 you start seeing better results. In 2027 you start seeing massive results. It's a buildup over time. Students that joined 2 years ago now have 15 publications, 20 publications, 10 publications. Obviously, there's a lot of variability there, but the higher impact and the higher number comes over time. This is not something that you can postpone like studying for an exam. This is not something that you can postpone if you have an interest in developing your career further. This is something that will transform your short-term goals, your medium-term goals, and your long-term goals. I hope to see you guys in the Meta-Analysis Academy. Okay, it's been a pleasure being with you here today, and I look forward to seeing you next week on Sunday on our first CPT. I'll see you then. Look at these publications that you see on the screen, abstracts presented in international meetings worldwide. Maybe you want to do residency in a competitive program. Maybe you want to go to another country, apply for a PhD. Can you imagine how much easier it will be to get there with high impact publications such as these? Believe me, I've been frustrated and disappointed in trying to find research mentors in my career. And I want to show you a different method by which you can get mentors. There's a specific research method that you can apply in your career that will give you results, that you can do it independently, that you can develop an idea, work on it, and even draft a paper. This will open doors of mentorship for you in your institution and beyond.
We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things. Not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
It's also more than that. The Meta-Analysis Academy is a community of doctors and medical students who have this mindset that they not only want to get publications done, of course that will happen, but they also have this mindset of excellence, of wanting more. So it's these two things. It's the ability to get research done, and it's an environment that will provide the excellence that you look for in your career.
So my name is Amanda Godoy. I am a fourth-year medical student at Cardiff University in the United Kingdom, and I got to know the meta-analysis course through social media. But a funny thing that happened was that I was already trying to get out of that world of trying to search for someone to help me with research, a supervisor, someone that would guide me in the field. Hours and hours and hours dedicated to research, and I can never get something out of it. And when the course was launched, the meta-analysis course was launched, and it was honestly the best thing that happened. 3 main points from Meta Academy. The lessons. It seems like a professional is getting you by the hand, taking you through every step of conducting a meta-analysis. So I had never experienced something so detailed, yet so simple at the same time. It's like a puzzle that used to be 5,000 pieces, but then it's compiled to just 10. And you have to focus on those 10. And it just gives you a pathway on how to follow and where to follow and where to get help, where to get guidance. The second one, I think, is the network that you get to know. You have the opportunity to work with other professionals from around the world, professionals that inspire you. And I think that's the best thing, the main thing. You get to work with experts in the field. You get to work with people from the same level as you. You get to work with people at different levels, from different backgrounds, different experiences, just coming together with this passion for research, this passion for improving their careers. And something really, really awesome happens, really fantastic. Throughout the course, there are several people that are working behind the scenes to help you in your own ideas. Every week, there are loads of mentorships that are being given by different professionals that have done meta-analysis themselves, that have worked with Randerson, and they help you on a one-to-one basis. And I don't think you can get that elsewhere. I am one of the first authors in an observational study that started in January 2020. It's still ongoing. We are still analyzing the results. So it's taken 2 years to, to really get to the bottom of it. And when I compare it with the meta-analysis that we were able to write a full paper in 4 weeks, I would say, that's nothing. It's just something that you can't compare it. You can't compare it.
Had so many frustrations in this research world and trying to get some opportunities, that so many times, so many challenges, so many hurdles. I didn't get the results that I wanted. I was frustrated with that. I started looking for some opportunities that I could be independent. And then finally, I found out about the course, about Meta Academy. And since then, I'm so grateful about everything.
What do you think, now that you learn how to do meta-analysis and you have a publication, what do you think learning meta-analysis has added to your profile, to your research experience, to your value as a researcher, in addition to all the other research that you had? Like, if you could just tell us from that perspective, why learn meta-analysis if you already have all these other publications? You know what I mean?
I think that the previous research that I have is a part of my history as a research, but I think for now my focus on meta-analysis is to create a more impactful research. And also I think that this type of research opens doors in so many ways, because right now when I am in the OR and I am like seeing my professors, I talk to them and they know that I am the meta-analysis girl. So
this is the power of meta-analysis. If you can unlock this in your career, the opportunities that you will have are just going to be amazing. The power that meta-analysis have to unlock research fellowship opportunities, residency in the United States, master's program, PhDs, all the good things you want to achieve in your career, having meta-analysis will help you get there. And this is the type of results that you can get. Jonathan in 1 year has two papers accepted, one as first author, one as co-author. He's working on 2 more papers. He has 6 abstracts accepted at the European Society of Medical Oncology or American Society of Oncology. So it's just unbelievable. I want to congratulate you, Jonathan, on this amazing work that you've done so far. It's pretty incredible. How is it, in your own words, that it was possible for you to, within 1 year, to have 3 manuscripts published, indexed in PubMed, and then 15 abstracts presented in global conferences?
Before I joined the Meta-Analysis Academy course, I had zero experience in research, like below zero. I knew nothing. And I even tried, especially here in Brazil, we experienced like a boom in med schools and an increasing number of, recently graduated doctors. And I always had this idea in mind, like what I can do to really stand out and distinguish myself from everybody. And when I realized that research was a a good strategy and a good option. I did what every med student does, and I sent an email to my professor, and he was teaching like cardiac physiology at the time. And we talked a little bit, and he said to me like, "Oh, I'm gonna put you in a group in his lab, and you're going to stay in this group for like 6 months." I think I last like two weeks, and then I quit. I hope no one from the lab is seeing this right now, but it was really boring. And that was when I had the opportunity to, enter the Meta-Analysis Academy course.
I was a person who has zero publication. I started the course knowing zero. Hi, I'm Jessica. I'm from Brazil, but now I currently live in Argentina. I'm in 5th year of medical school. I did the first edition of Meta-Analysis Academy. It was game-changing, totally game-changing, life-changing, because I became another student. I became another person. Everything happened because I decided to do USMLE process, and I went to a residency program so hard. A lot of people said you have to do articles, you have to do research, you have to have publications in PubMed. Someday I saw an announcement from Dr. Anderson Instagram, and I decided to do the course, and it was so game-changing because 1 year and a half probably later, like today, I have 2 publications in index journals of neurosurgery as co-author, and it's incredible, the sensation, the feeling, it's incredible, the feeling. And also we have with our group that we formed at Experts program, and we did a lot of articles and 2 publications in index journals. Also we have an abstract accept in CNS. The first abstract accept in CNS was in 1st year, like last year. I already finished the course and we sent an abstract to CNS, the Congress of Neurological Surgeons, and they accept our abstract. So it was magical. And in this year, we have 3 abstracts accepted in the same Congress, and another 2 accepted the Brazilian Congress of Neurosurgery. So it was incredible. I know all this thing that happened in my life, it's because I learned how to do a meta-analysis and a systematic review. This is career changing. Without Meta-Analysis Academy, I know that this publication, it was possible.
Hi everyone, my name is Alice Marinho. I'm a 4th year medical student in Brazil, and I'm a teaching assistant at a Meta-Analysis Academy. I did the first edition of the course, and very quickly I had amazing results. I had abstracts accepted in huge international conferences, such as the European Society of Cardiology, the European Society for Medical Oncology, the San Antonio Breast Cancer Symposium, the American Heart Association, and others. And I can say from my experience that Dr. Hanson would teach you everything you need to know on how to conduct systematic reviews and meta-analysis. And after I saw all the amazing classes and the dedication and enthusiasm he puts into the course, I really wanted to help the project grow, so I joined the educational team. I was a teaching assistant in the last edition of the course, and I will be in the next edition as well. And I really believe in his methods, and I think that if you dedicate yourself to the course and watch the classes and do the exercise, you will be able to achieve amazing results as well. So I really hope to see you in the next edition of the Meta-Analysis Academy.